Hey, what's up, guys? It's John Michaels. It's Joe Hamilton. It's time for another ACC beat as we now turn to week number 3 of the college football season in the ACC. And, Joe, some really intriguing matchups. We'll start here on your home of the Jacket, 680 The Fan. On the road, Death Valley, Clemson, South Carolina. It's a tough one for Jeff Collins and company.
Yeah, and it feels like I should be fired up, and I am fired up. I don't know what to really expect when you talk about terms of wins and losses. I know I do not want 70 put on those Yellow Jackets. That's a little bit embarrassing. But I do think you're an improved team, and you're saying up front, can you match up with Clemson's depth is what I'll be watching for. And Clemson's already pretty good, John.
Right.
You can't help them beat you. And I'm talking about pre-snap penalties. I'm talking about mental errors, not being able to line up, not being able to communicate. Those are the things. And I wouldn't mind if I see a little bit of trickums, a little bit of deep shots, a little bit of, maybe a surprise onside kick, maybe doing something that exotic like DJU, their quarterback hadn't seen yet. I don't think you just roll out. I don't think you keep a good game, the same game plan, and think you can match up with Clemson and beat them. They're going to have something special to happen, and they're going to have to make a lot of plays.
A couple of interesting things from that. Clemson sort of found their running game last week, although it's against South Carolina State, so you take that with a grain of salt. DJU is also yet to throw for 200 yards in a game. So, again, if I'm Georgia Tech, you probably have to load the box, take away the run game like Georgia did, make DJU show that he can beat you throwing the football. And then the interesting thing on the flip side, who the heck's starting at quarterback for Georgia Tech?
Yeah, that's a good question. I think Coach Collins knows. And the whole big thing about it, Coach Patton knows, the offensive coordinator and the quarterback's coach. I hope he's communicating really well with his quarterbacks. We don't need to know, you and I, John, as far as who's going to start. Mm-hmm. It's not important. We would like to. But in that quarterback room, you don't want any tension. You don't want any guy feeling that you've been lied to. So long as the communication is very clean, very direct, very transparent with those two guys, no matter who they decide to go through, I think they'll feel comfortable with whoever it is.
What do you take out of this game? Is it a moral victory game if you can keep it 45-17, somewhere like that? Or is it just get it to the second half where it's a competitive nature?
I'm watching very closely to win. I hate to say this because I'm not a moral victory guy.
Right.
I don't want to talk like I don't believe that the Yellow Jackets can win. But I'm looking to see when does the Clemson Tigers have to pull out their starters. Mm-hmm. They need to jog DJU out there in the second half.
Sure.
You remember now, Trevor Lawrence last year racked up 417 yards and I think more, maybe 4 or 5 touchdowns in the first half. You didn't even need them in the second half. They drove or they carried on the bus 99 players. All 99 players played. You don't want to see that. Moral victory, I say, make sure you cover the spread. Make sure you can score and get in the end zone, which is going to be tough, and look like a football team that's not beating themselves.
Huge game in the Coastal Division. We talked about this a little bit on Monday, but it's going to be Virginia at North Carolina. It's huge for the Tar Heels because they already started 0-1 in conference. Lose this game if you're Sam Howell, and all of a sudden you could be behind the 8 ball trying to make it to the ACC championship game. Virginia seems like contender more than pretender, at least early on. Who do you give the nod to in this one?
Oh, that's a good one. I'm going to give the nod now to North Carolina, and the reason why I think they're going to play, not to say they're a better team. I like the way Coach Mendenhall has put together the Cavaliers team, but I'm going with Sam Howell. I'm going with Mac Brown and his staff because it just feels like they're back against the wall. Mm-hmm. Like you just said, you lose another one, then your dreams of going and meeting in Charlotte and the ACC championship game is diminished a little bit. I think they play with their hair on fire. I think they play with a sense of urgency, and that's going to come and show itself on Saturday, I think.
Sam Howell against Georgia State went over 300 yards passing, over 100 yards on the ground. They've yet to really find the ground game that they had a year ago with Michael Carter and Javonte Williams. So they got to find that. Ty Chandler, transfer from Tennessee. Time to get him 20 carries. Keep Brennan Armstrong and company off the field. I'll take North Carolina. I think it's a close game. Might be the best game on the board all weekend long.
I would agree with that.
I'll be making the trip down to South Florida, a little road trip for me and the wife. We go down. It's going to be Miami and Michigan State. My guy, he's not my guy. Manny Diaz is under fire right now. Bad enough to get blown out to Alabama. It's even worse when you come out in the press conference afterwards and say, well, this is what Alabama does to everybody, as if that's an excuse to get blown out. Then you double down this week because you have a tough game against Appalachian State, a game that the Canes pull out. And he says in the post-game interview, well, Appalachian State goes on the road and does this to everybody. I can't hear that out of a team that's got Coastal Division aspirations.
You sound a little angered.
I'm very angry.
You sound a little, perturbed. Here's the deal. you're going to have to score points. You're going to have to draw some things up in the dirt against Michigan State because we all know who their head coach is. The head coach is Coach Mel Tucker. He's a defensive-minded guy. He's got that program believing. He's getting athletes. He's got the new, special teams director and also the director of player personnel. They believe.
Right.
Now, to come all the way down to Miami with that heat, maybe you wear them down. Maybe they're not sensing that kind of humidity before. But this is a must-win game and must look good for Manny Diaz. I don't know who I'm going to pick in this one. I think I'm going to be a homer and go with the Miami Hurricanes.
Well, you should. It's going to be a noon kick, Big Ten team coming down there. It's 91 degrees set for the humidity, going to be about 85%. Kenneth Walker, a guy to watch for Michigan State. He ran for over 2 bills in their opener. Only got 7 carries a week ago against Youngstown State. Jalen Redd, big play receiver they have on the outside. Peyton Thorne, a sophomore. Miami's got to crank up the pressure, and they got to figure out what's going on with De'Aaron King. He looks healthy, but he looks tentative. You got to get back to the De'Aaron King that was a Heisman Trophy contender if they want to win.
And the only way you get De'Aaron King back to what you just talked about is game reps. You can't simulate. You can try to do anything you want to do in practice, have the bags hitting on him, trying to have him do some drills that he's going to be explosive. But there's nothing like trust. There's nothing like somebody is breathing down your throat, and you have to bring out your best move, and it's not really there yet.
Right.
So I think he'll get better as the season goes along, but it's going to only come with reps.
Yeah, and they've got a tough stretch. It's Michigan State, easy game next week against Central Connecticut, and then 4 days afterwards, Virginia comes to town. So this is a 13, 14-day stretch for the Canes. They really got to get things going. Other game on the docket that's very intriguing to me, and it's not for the game itself, it's how does Florida State bounce back? First road game of the year at Wake Forest. Coach Clausen will throw it all over the yard. Sam Hartman, one of the great dual-threat quarterbacks in college football that nobody knows about. But the psyche of Florida State is under question by one of their former players. Go follow PK Sam, Atlanta kid. He literally said, I've got people in the locker, I've got sources in the locker room that say the locker room's in shambles. How do the Noles recover?
I don't know. I don't think they recover against Wake Forest, to be quite honest. And it's bigger than Mike Norvell. You can talk about Mike Norvell being the guy to turn this program around. I really don't know right now, John. I really don't know. I think he's a good coach, but when you have divisiveness in that locker room, when you have a meeting after the meeting, for instance, I got a team meeting and I'm telling you guys what to do, and then afterwards the players are having another type meeting, that's no good. But when what PK Sam is talking about the locker room, he's not talking about a divided locker room where they don't like their head coach.
Sure.
He's talking about a divided locker room that can't believe the effort, can't believe the want to, can't believe that we are Florida State and we're letting this happen, Jacksonville State happen on our turf, and you guys probably in the locker room key and ha like it's no big deal. That's where I think there's a little tension, and I don't know if you can solidify that or make that up in 1 week, because all Wake Forest has to do, in my opinion, this Saturday is get up on those guys.
Yeah, punch them in the mouth one time. Florida State's in trouble. You talk about the effort, and I tell anybody, go back and watch the highlight of the Hail Mary that happens. There's 4 Florida State players trailing the play, and a couple of them just come to a stop. And they don't run. If they run after the guy when he cuts back at the 10, you probably make the tackle, you win. You don't feel great that it's a 17-14 win, but you feel a hell of a lot better than a 20-17 loss. I wonder how long they give Mike Norvell at Florida State, because Willie Taggart got about 18 games, and they ran him out of town. Mike Norvell is now 3-8 in 2 years in Tallahassee. That is pre-Bobby Bowden type numbers for the Noles.
That's no good. And when you look at who's in charge, don't they hire guys as a committee?
Right.
So you have to go through so many loops to try to get somebody fired and hired. I don't know if they're at that moment yet, but it's not good optics at all when you're talking about the bloodline of any program is recruiting. And how can you step in any student athlete house or home or their campus or the high school, and try to sell Florida State? That's going to be difficult right now.
Right, and you got a big recruiting class coming in 2022, and there's already people going, that recruiting class might be out the window if they don't start winning. Go Jackets this weekend. Hopefully they can keep it close against Clemson. I'll be down in Miami.
Keep it close.
I'm going to keep it real.
No, you are
keep it real. Keep it close against Clemson. You guys told me I needed to keep it real with Miami and Bama. I'm telling you, keep it real with Tech and Clemson. Hopefully the Jackets can do some good things under Coach Collins. I'll be in Miami. We'll be back on Monday. Make sure you tune into the locker room. 6 to 10 Monday through Friday. Hudson, Joe, myself, home team, and B. Finn. It's always a lot of fun. Until next week. See ya.